Oil revenues, 1/3 to the federal government of Iraq, 1/3 to these individual 18 territories, and 1/3 every man, woman, and child. You get a check from the government, you're going to feel like you got a stake in the government. You're going to feel like you're going to take that money, build a farm, build a business like this, and you'll invite people in and you won't be going around trying to blow them up. You want them to come in and be your customers. You will win the peace, stabilize that country, and have a democracy in the Middle East. That's what we need to do. And that's a plan. Thank you very much. Second thing, we have a terrible situation around the world where people hate America, Americans, and people want to destroy our country, the jihadists, and want to destroy Christianity. And I want to tell you that I believe that there's a way to start subverting and changing people's attitudes around the world towards America. I found it through health care. I went to Afghanistan 4 times and found out they treated women and children just like chattel. Would not allow women to do anything. And when a woman had to go in for an operation, they'd bring in a male doctor off the street to operate, and there was no running water in the operating room and just started operating. Can you imagine the infection? 16% of the babies died in childbirth, and I came back and raised $2.5 million to rebuild a hospital in Kabul, Afghanistan. I opened it up on Easter Sunday 2003, and there were 750 women in the audience. They came to say thank you to me, but more importantly, thank you to America, because they finally had a hospital that was going to have a sterile and safe sanitary position in place for them to go to be taken care of. It was powerful, and I thought to myself, this is the way to start changing these jihadist attitudes through the women and children to good health. Then I noticed we have 2 giant hospital ships. One, the Comfort, and one, the Mercy. One is in San Diego, and one is in Baltimore. And we have 1,000 beds. And I would sail those around the world, and I would put new incoming medical students fresh out of college that have to serve their residency, allow them to spend a year on these ships. And can you imagine having these giant ships with the American flag furling, going into the ports all across the world, and having these young idealistic doctors go in and start ministering to the needs of these people, and how these young doctors would learn and be able to come back here to Indianola and to Pella and to Des Moines and Dubuque and so on and be better doctors. We could start changing the attitudes of the people around the world. And we'll start saying, you know, America is a great country. That's what we need to do to downplay this movement of hatred and of torture and of terror around the world towards America. Then I look at our own healthcare system. I look at the healthcare system and I speak about it, I write about it, and I teach how we can transform healthcare. 90% of the healthcare system, ladies and gentlemen, is spent treating people after they get sick. Less than 10% of the $2 trillion is spent keeping you well in the first place. That doesn't make any sense at all. Anybody from Iowa with common sense would say that's not a smart system. I want to invest the money up front, keep you well, keep you out of the hospital, keep you in your homes, and you will save billions of dollars, and you will be a better quality of health for you. I want to be able to make sure we do things with chronic illnesses. I want to monitor illness. 25% of the people that are severely ill, physically and mentally, use up 2/3 of the cost of health care. If we monitor them, we get that down to 50% and save billions of dollars. And if we got down to one form, submitting one form to doctors and hospitals, we can save 10% or $191 billion in health care. We can do it in the tax system, we've done it in an employer system, we can do it on our health care. I would also make sure that we grow out of our dependence on Middle East oil. We spend 61% of our dollars on oil and gas into Middle East and OPEC countries. 61% of that oil that we use comes from countries that really don't like us. And money is being sent over there to OPEC countries, and some of that money is funneling into the terrorist hands who are fighting us in Iraq. So actually, we are suspending using our own money for terrorism in Iraq and Afghanistan to fight our troops. So we're actually, on both sides of the war, contributing money. And yet we have this rich soil out here in Iowa that we can grow corn and soybeans, and start turning that into fuel. We can start putting the money into alternative fuels such as wind and solar and nuclear, and start being able to grow ourselves away from the dependency on foreign oil. And then I was up in Anwar, clear up in the northern tip of Alaska. I went up there to look at it. And I want to tell you the area that they want to use for exploration to get the oil and gas down here is about the size of Indianola compared to the whole state of Ohio. And I talked to the caribou up there, and they said they would not hurt them. They can walk around that area, and they wouldn't have to be affected by it. And you can have millions of gallons of oil coming down out of Alaska to America to start solving our problems. I would control the border. I would not allow for amnesty, and I would build that barrier in the first 151 days. I would require a tamper-proof ID card so that people coming into our country legally can go to an employer. The employer can see that. If the employer doesn't see that and the employee doesn't have it, they both would be fined. 3, if they're going to come into this country legally and they want to become citizens, they're going to learn the American language. That's called English. It's a national language. 4, I would pardon those 2 security guys that are in jail on the border and for doing their job. I would pardon them, and I get that done. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I come in front of you because I need your help. I'm from Wisconsin, and Iowa used to be part of Wisconsin back in 1840 to 1844 before you petitioned to become a state, and I'm just trying to put us back together. And I think that an upper Midwesterner, it's time for somebody with common sense that comes up with common sense solutions to win the presidency of the United States. And I don't believe a Republican can win next year without carrying Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And I believe I'm the strongest candidate to do that. And I don't believe we want to end up with Hillary, who wants to nationalize health care. And I believe I'm the candidate that's smart enough, strong enough, and knowledgeable enough to go toe-to-toe and talk about health care with any candidate on either side of the aisle. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm spending my time coming here and asking for your support. People said, just like I couldn't win the state assembly, couldn't win the governorship because I didn't have the money, I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. And people always tell me that there's an adage in Iowa that if you want somebody to vote for you in Iowa, you come and look square in the eye, shake their hands, and say, I want your vote, and this is what I'm going to stand. And I'm the candidate that's doing it. I'm asking for your vote. I'm coming and shaking your hands in your communities, and I'm going to visit every single county, and I'm not sending my son or a surrogate to go do it. I'm doing it myself, and I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. Finally, I'm married to Sue Ann Thompson, my wife of 38 years. We have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. And my wife was a teacher until she came down with breast cancer, and then she started a Women's Health Foundation, which she spends her time educating women in Wisconsin and around the country on good health and how to purchase health insurance. It's a nonprofit corporation that she started. Now it's grown to 20 employees, and she is more popular in Wisconsin than I am. We have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. My mother died of ovarian cancer. My mother-in-law died of breast cancer. My wife came down with breast cancer when I was governor 10 years ago when she started a Women's Health Foundation. And my young daughter, Tom, at the age of 31, who's a CPA, went to work for my wife, and she came down with breast cancer. So it was mother-in-law, mother, daughter, and I'm here to pledge to all the women in this room and across Iowa that I'm going to come up with a cure to breast cancer. I'm not going to allow women and mothers and grandmothers and daughters and granddaughters to end up with this terrible insidious disease like my family has. I'm absolutely passionate about finding a cure for cancer, specifically breast cancer, and hopefully all the other cancers. And so when my daughter was going to go in for a mastectomy, she was able to salvage 1 egg. She wanted a baby. Fertilized by her husband, Brian, and because she was on cancer drugs, she couldn't carry the baby, so they froze the egg for 2.5 years. And last Good Friday, a year ago on Good Friday, That egg was thawed out, and